Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Shikano Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vyasa Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Gidi Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Swami Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. 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 Hare Krishna. Can I be heard on this?
Hare Krishna. Thank you again for everybody coming participating in this celebration of the day of Puja of the Guru Maharaj. Today is also very auspicious day, as you know. Today is Ekadasi, and also today is the Bhagavad Gita spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. That itself gives us the message what we should do. Right? So now I request Guru Maharaj to address us.
Yes.
And then he will talk about the books, and then followed by the Vyasa Puja offering by the all the devotees. Thank
you. Before I give my talk, I want to make two emergency announcements. My dear typist, Guru Das, is in a perilous condition. I received a phone call at 5 a.m. from a doctor in Germany. Guru Das was flying on the plane from Delhi to the United States, and he was taken off the plane because he was in an unstable condition. He was taken to the hospital and he was operated on. As you may know, he has a swollen left leg. And on the plane, that left leg had developed into two tennis ball-sized protrusions. So they operated on him and drained the liquid from those puffed up sections. They're going to operate on him again on Monday. The doctor said he thinks it is not life-threatening, but he may lose his leg. So we should pray that he doesn't lose his life or his leg. His being put out of action puts me into another emergency condition. At Baraha Bhavan, I do two things. I take part in the 2.5-hour out loud readings, and I write in my weekly journal and in my longer journal. I write with a pen on loose leaf paper, and then I dictate it. Oh, I thought I had a... Yes, I have one here. I dictate it into one of these dictaphones. Then Krishna Dasi sends them out to Guru Das, and he types them and sends the pages back to me and one copy to my editor. But now it looks like for a long time he will not be able to type. I'm sure as soon as he is able to, he will be typing again. But in the meantime, I need a typist. So if there's anyone here in the audience who can volunteer to do typing from these dictaphones, or if anyone in the audience can be in contact with someone who could do the typing, then please come forward. There will not be any weekly journal this week. It usually comes out on Saturday, but it won't come out for the indefinite future until I get a typist. So let's pray for Guru Das and try to come forward with the typist for me. A lot of typing.
Daily.
This year, 2022, my book production team set as a goal to publish all the books I have written on Srila Prabhupada, which have mostly gone out of print. Last July, I presented 8 books, and today I have another 8 books exclusively about Srila Prabhupada. Today we are celebrating that I am your spiritual master. The main function I performed for you was when I initiated you and linked you into the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And in particular, I linked you to Srila Prabhupada. So these 16 books should be a treat for you to focus on your connection with His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. In books written by me, but about Him. I'm going to read excerpts from the 8 books as part of my presentation. We have published 4 volumes of Prabhupada meditation. Since then, we have produced a 5th volume made up of new material taken from other books that I have written. So I'm reading in Prabhupada Meditations, Volume 5, a selection called Prabhupada in New York, Remembering Vrindavan. If I had to single out one of the sweetest sections in Prabhupada's talks, I would surely include a section from a lecture he gave in New York in March 1966. Prabhupada was still living uptown at that time. It was before he moved to the Bowery or came to the Lower East Side. From the tape, it sounds like there were only a few people in the room with him. A middle-aged sounding woman was directing questions at Prabhupada while he spoke on the Bhagavad Gita. The section I am referring to is where Prabhupada starts talking about holy places. He is making the point that it is not enough to visit a sacred place and take bath, but that we should hear from the saintly persons who lived there. The woman then asks whether it's also true that the holy place has its own, quote, magnetism. Prabhupada says, yes, certainly. And then he says, it is practical. Whenever Prabhupada says practical, it means he would now give an example from his own experience. In this case, he told how he was living happily in Vrindavan. Now I am sitting, New York, a very great, the world's greatest city, so magnificent city, but my heart is always hankering after that Vrindavan. I am not happy here. I shall be very happy to return to my Vrindavan, that sacred place. Then why have you come here? Because I have a duty. I have a message to give to you people, which my spiritual master asked me to give. You can get the recording if you want and hear it for yourself, but I just wanted to tell you how much I like it. Of course, Prabhupada is always speaking as a preacher, but in giving his own life as an example, he speaks so much from his heart about his love for Vrindavan. He explains clearly why he left Vrindavan, and it becomes poignant to think of the difficulties he must be overgoing in New York City to fulfill his spiritual master's order. He even says, quote, I have taken all risks and inconveniences to come here. Prabhupada didn't hide his reason for being in the West. He didn't mind reminding people occasionally that he had come to a foreign country with no financial security and that great personal sacrifice just to help them. It's not that he had to be here. He was not a beggar. He had been living in ecstasy in Vrindavan Dham. He also didn't mind reminding them that his heart was actually in Vrindavan, although he was living in New York. It makes us yearn for more from him. Prabhupada is only hinting at his love for Vrindavan, and we would like to understand more about it. When he mentioned his coming to New York City, he wasn't complaining. He just presents it as a fact that he is a surrendered servant of his Guru Maharaj, and therefore he has come, despite all inconveniences. It makes us want to be like him, to love Vrindavan, but to leave Vrindavan to preach on his order. It is wonderful to have a glimpse into the heart of his divine grace. Here's another line I think is memorable. It's idealistic and filled with worldly wisdom also. Quote, Krishna prema, Krishna consciousness is the highest gift which can be bestowed on anyone whom we presume to love. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.23.8 purport. If we love someone, we want to give them something. If we really love someone, our spouses or children, then give them love of God. In one sense, Prabhupada is implying that it's presumptuous to claim that we love someone. If we claim to love someone but do not give them Krishna prema, then our so-called love is not very valuable. When Steve Cowett, my atheist college buddy, read my introduction to Nimai Das and the Mouse, he said, I think you are trying something that is very difficult, to be true to yourself and at the same time true to the teachings of Krishna consciousness. He seemed to think it was impossible. I also recall Ray Rama saying how he and Hayagriva had, quote, intellectual honesty. Therefore, they were willing to defy Vedic truths if they didn't mesh with their own intellects. Today I heard Prajapati Das say to Prabhupada on tape, for the last 150 years, theologians have had a great problem in reconciling faith with reason. They want to believe, but can't reach God by reason. Prabhupada proceeded to give examples how God is a reasonable truth. He said we have a relationship with everything, for example, with the road we walk on. Since we have a relationship with everything in the world, why not with God who created it? The devotees on the walk persisted in giving agnostic challenges. Karandara said they want God to be proved to the senses. Otherwise, they think the devotees are fantasizing. At first, Prabhupada replied that devotional service is verified by the senses, because we walk to the temple, see, smell incense, see the deity form, eat prasadam. But Karandar said, when a devotee offers food to Krishna, he believes on faith that Krishna takes the food. We don't see Krishna doing it. Prabhupada replied, you do not see, but I see. You are blind, I am not so foolish. So you have come to me in order to see. You have a cataract on your eyes, and I shall remove it. It was a wonderful thing to hear. I was on this particular walk on Venice Beach decades ago. I remember when Srila Prabhupada said that, you can't see, but I can see. I remember how I felt subdued and convinced by his words. The so-called gap between faith and reason was closed by the assertion of his seeing Krishna. we want to follow. The atheists can't follow. Leave them behind. This is a new printing of Srila Prabhupada Samadhi Diary with a new nice cover on it. I have one excerpt from here to read. The Samadhi Mandir is special because I can think of the spiritual master as he is described in the Guru Vastakam verses. You chant the holy names, you chant in ecstasy and dance, you sing and play musical instruments. In your samadhi, you hold the gong and mallet early in the morning and you chant with us. Now you hold your japamala. You can feel ecstasy in the Sankirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The temple that you built is right next door. Tears flow from your eyes and your hairs stand on end as you worship your lordships, Sri Sri Radhasham Sundar, Krishna Balaram, and Goni Tai. I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. Here's a book we reproduced. On the back it says, a series of lectures by Satsvarupa Das Goswami given in Dallas, Texas, immediately after returning from Vrindavan, India, where he witnessed the disappearance of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We have all heard how Srila Prabhupada, like Uddhava, was playing with the form of Radha Krishna from his early childhood, and how he was observing Ratha Yatra with his small playmates. In a letter to Tamal Krishna Maharaj in 1970, Srila Prabhupada wrote of those deities he had worshipped in his childhood. He wrote, the Radha Krishna deity in this family called to me to meet him. And last time I was in Calcutta, I stayed in the temple with my American disciples. Although I had immense opportunities to engage in the four principles of sinful life because I was connected with a very aristocratic family, Krishna always saved me. And throughout my whole life, I did not know what is illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, or gambling. So far my present life is concerned, I do not remember any part of my life when I was forgetful of Krishna. And here's a new version of the book, Prabhupada Appreciation. As Srila Prabhupada taught his disciples how to die throughout his time in the West, he also instructed his disciples how to love the spiritual master. One may wonder why I have arbitrarily combined Prabhupada's lessons on dying with those he gave on love. I am doing this partly because Prabhupada emphasized these two things in his last days. Also, they go together in Krishna consciousness because death is transcended by love. Love and death are such important universal topics that every philosopher and spiritual leader has some obligation to discuss them. Love and death are not just something devotees study as sectarian doctrine. We have to hear the instructions given by a great teacher Srila Prabhupada on these profound experiences. This was also a great lesson. Just as Krishna increased the love of the residents of Vrindavan through the Leela of Kaliya Krishna, Prabhupada often placed himself in a position of dependence on his disciples and then acted in a way that brought out their feelings of love. This was especially true during his lengthy illness. But like Krishna, who showed the Brajavasis his triumph over Kaliya, Prabhupada revealed his true and sole dependence on Krishna. From when he first arrived in America, Srila Prabhupada taught us how to love through different types of loving relationships. He taught us to love the spiritual master by his personal dealings with us. He taught us how to love Krishna by making his own loving exchanges with Krishna so visible to us. His method was loving service, but he did not do it for himself. He was delivering them to Krishna. That was his duty. Here's a book with a new cover. It's called Here is Srila Prabhupada. I don't think I'll read from this. It may prolong the ceremonies. This is volume 3 of my letters from Srila Prabhupada called I Am Never Displeased with Any Member. I have a letter from Srila Prabhupada that I'd like to read. Atreya Rishi Das once wrote to Prabhupada to tell him there were so many differences of opinion among the devotees in the temple that Maya must be present. Prabhupada didn't agree. I will quote the entire letter because Prabhupada makes such nice points. I am very much pleased by the sentiments expressed therein. It is not so much that because there may be some faults in our God brothers and God sisters, or because there may be some mismanagement or lack of cooperation, that this is due to being impersonalists. No, it is the living nature to always have some fault. Even in the spiritual world there is some fault and envy. Sometimes the gopis will quarrel over Krishna's favor, and Krishna was so much attracted to Radharani, that mistake, he tried to milk the bull instead of the cow. And sometimes when the gopis used to put on their dress and makeup, there are so many examples, but it is not the same as material fault or material envy. It is transcendental because it's all based on Krishna. Sometimes when one gopi would serve Krishna very nicely, the others would say, "Oh, she has done so nicely. Now let me do better for pleasing Krishna." That is envy, but it is transcendental, without malice. And then he ends, the devotee is always pessimistic about the material world, but he is very optimistic about the spiritual life. So in this way, you should consider that anyone engaged in Krishna's service is always the best person. I have one more. This is from the poem collection, Remembering Srila Prabhupada, with the new cover. San Francisco homecoming, December 1967. He was always golden, but for months in the sunshine of India he was tanner, and his step was lively. He had purchased saris for the girls and silk garlands for Lord Jagannath. With these items in his bag, along with cartels and a coconut grater, he had passed through the immigration and customs line, carrying his sannyas danda. He hadn't come back for money, for enjoying the senses, or for Hindu conversions. He saw America in a spiritual way. When a TV reporter asked him, what was his complaint against America, he replied, I have no complaint, rather they are taking to it. I'm not going to read from this last book because I've been serializing it in my weekly journal. Calling out to Srila Prabhupada. I see the audience has increased. That's nice. Although the rain hasn't stopped. One thing about the Vyasa Puja images, at first I heard a rumor that there was going to be a book with contributions. But then I discovered it was just a rumor and there is no book. But some of you may have written down homages, and you can read them. I just want to repeat that I'm glad that I could read from Prabhupada books that I wrote today. This may be the last chance I have to do this. I am not able to write any more books about Prabhupada, although the devotees like that most about my books. I've used up all my memories, but I'm writing other books about Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada is present in them. So today you got a last nice treat.